Right. Yeah, a few seconds to join and then we'll start.
The webinar started, so I see 26 people, 28 are joining. A lot of them are coming in. Good year?
Yeah, I'll see the number of participants increasing, so I'll just give everyone a few seconds and then we'll start immediately.
Good.
All right, let's start. So welcome everyone to our webinar, Beyond Integration, How PepsiCo Builds Custom HR Applications with SAP BTP. Thank you all for joining us today. When talking to many HRT leaders, we recognize a common challenge as they face increasing pressure to deliver innovative solutions while balancing the cost and resources. So we see that often recognize the need to deliver custom HR integration application, but then they struggle to justify the investment or find the right delivery approach. In our webinar series, BTP for HR, we address this gap and by educating HRT leaders with practical use cases where they can leverage SAP BTP in the HR space. In our first webinar a couple of weeks ago, we addressed integration as the foundation of a successful HR BTP technology strategy. And today we're really excited to address the topic of custom HR applications. So as you can see, we have a great panel of speakers from the PepsiCo HR technology team and members of the Commentech team, whom I'll introduce in a couple of minutes. They will guide us through specific example on how to address tangible HR business needs by leveraging the right technology with the right implementation approach. Now, before we dive in, I want to share a few practical details. First, this meeting is being recorded, and we'll also make sure that the recording is available to all participants after the session. We've also reserved some time for the Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit your question throughout the webinar. We'll try to address them. Now, we do have a large number of participants today, so we'll probably not be able to address all questions during this session. We'll try to address as many as possible today, but we'll also make sure to follow up individually on any questions that we cannot cover today. With that, I'm now really pleased to introduce Mick Collins from SAP, who will share some context on why BTP has become such a strategic component for HR technology solution. Mick?
Thank you, Gauthier, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mick Collins, part of the SuccessFactors go-to-market team. I have responsibility for talking about the business technology platform to our HR customers. And first and foremost, thank you to Commentech for putting on this webinar. We've been working with you for the last 12 months as experts in the BTP plus HCM space with a strong portfolio of customers, as we see here today. And what I think you're really good at is demystifying what it means to use BTP alongside an HR product from SuccessFactors. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about how does BTP fit into our world within SuccessFactors. And I look at this in terms of what it means to be a SuccessFactors customer. First of all, you have access to the native innovations that we produce as part of the HCM suite. So investments in AI and payroll, career and talent development, what we're doing this year with analytics, for example, that's all part of SuccessFactors product innovation you see there on the left-hand side. We also have our ecosystem. So over 350 partners have built applications that sit on top of SAP SuccessFactors, and those are available in the SAP store. And then thirdly, on the right-hand side, we have the business technology platform. As Gauthier mentioned, a way for customers to solve very unique or very time-pressing needs with a set of capabilities that are built specifically for use with SAP and with SuccessFactors as well. That's really what the rest of this session will cover here today. To go a little bit deeper on the next slide, you can see a little bit more about what kinds of use cases we see the business technology platform applying towards. We use this here inside of SuccessFactors. So our reporting is built upon BTP, WorkZone is built upon BTP. but we see a lot of customers. Frankly, the most customer case studies we have are around building applications that connect SuccessFactors systems and data and processes, but make them even more unique and specialized for our customers like Pepsi. We also see a lot of work in integration, being able to connect on-premise SAP to cloud SuccessFactors to third-party solutions as well. And certainly more and more topics like workforce planning, whether you're doing cost-based planning or strategic long-term workforce planning, that's also part of the business technology platform. So today we're going to focus on one main aspect of this, but it really is a way to automate processes, use AI to be able to build applications, do analytics and planning, and have that all be surrounded by integration. That's what SAP's business technology platform brings to the table. So I'm delighted that we have a customer talking today about their use of this. And Gautier, with that, I'll turn back to you to kick us off.
Well, thank you, Mick, for the excellent context on the strategic importance of BTP in the HR area. So, in a nutshell, as an HRT leader, 95% of your business needs should be covered by the standard modules like Employee Central, Performance Management, Recruiting, etc. And then BTP is really the technology platform to support the additional 5% where you have specific needs in terms of company-specific processes or branding, etc. So what we see is most HRT leaders understand that they have to leverage BTP, and now they want to understand how. So that's today we're going to help you make that connection by really showing you an example of how to leverage BTP, how such a project unfolds, and then what are the success criteria. And in this process, obviously, we'll show what role BTP plays. So PepsiCo faced a challenge that is really common. So how to give hiring manager better visibility into internal candidate information. But then rather than just creating a quick fix, they built a solution that connects their talent management and recruitment processes in a way that delivers lasting value. So to help me explain that, I'm really delighted to introduce our panel of experts who will share the background on the need and then the approach to deliver that solution with BTP. So with us today, we have Stephanie, who supports the talent acquisition function and will explain the need in the recruitment process of internal candidates. We also have Lauren, who supports the talent management technology at PepsiCo. So Lauren will help us understand what the talent card is used for and what the key requirements are that the team saw to address that need in this function that is in this solution that is really across function. Joining them is Alison, who oversees the SuccessFactors integration and BTP implementation at PepsiCo. So Alison will really share her perspective on how the solution aligns with the company's strategy for HR extension. And then to complete the PepsiCo team, we have Marissa, who leads SuccessFactors core functionality and talent management. So Marissa will highlight how the solution is streamlining HR operation by providing the right tool sets to the users. From the Commentech team, we have Danielle, who was leading the development of this application. So Danielle will help us go through the development process and also understand how BTP supported the requirements. Then we have Frank, who will share from an architecture perspective what are the key components of BTP that were used to leverage or to deliver that application. And then obviously Mick, whom you just see, explained how BTP plays a role in the context of HR strategy. With that, let's start maybe with some background on the talent card. So Lauren, do you mind explaining what the talent card really is and how it is used internally within PepsiCo?
Yes, of course. So the talent card was developed a couple of years ago, where we capture employee details into one form. It's more of like a snapshot of the employee of specific performance and talent management details. So previously, when we developed it, we decided to include employees' work experiences, which can be internal PepsiCo or external opportunities, career experiences gained or needed, their work location, their manager information, how long they've been working at PepsiCo. So like I said, it's really just a snapshot of the employee and the details within PepsiCo. Most of the information is entered by the employee themselves. So it's on the ownership of the employee to provide the details. So this form was requested by the talent management team. As I mentioned, they are using it for career development and growth opportunities and conversations, as well as people planning. So it is extremely beneficial tool for the employee to complete the required performance portlets within SuccessFactors. And as I mentioned, the talent card is highly used across all global talent management teams for those items as far as people planning and career growth opportunities.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that background. That is really important to understand also the next step. So now let's maybe understand the need that was identified specifically in the recruitment process and how that plays a role with the talent card. So maybe Stephanie, can you tell us about the challenge that hiring managers were facing when trying to access talent information for their internal candidates?
Yes, sure. Hiring managers would receive a link to the candidate's ISIMS ATS resume, but they also wanted to see the talent cards because there was so much more information there. The problem was either a hiring manager didn't even know that those existed or they didn't know how to get to them within our system. So they were sort of stuck in a case of depending on who you know would be what information you might receive. So a hiring manager would have to go out to their recruiter and ask about the talent cards. They turn around and have to go out to their HR business partner to ask about the talent cards. That HRBP would have to pull the card and format it and send it back to the hiring manager. So in that time, we're sort of losing valuable time, recruiting time, navigating the system, the process, and it's just causing frustration for talent acquisition, talent management, hiring manager, and then ultimately our internal candidates. So this was a disconnect that talent acquisition really brought to us and said, we really need some automation for this. We need to be able to get this to hiring managers easily and timely. And so that is how we started working with Lawrence Sabag and Allison Baker to see what we can and should be sharing with hiring managers at the time that we're presenting internal candidates to them.
Thank you, Stephanie. So really the need was in automating a process to provide the information to the hiring manager in a seamless way, right?
Yes, so they get the full picture of their candidates. Mm-hmm.
No, great, thank you. So Lauren, from there, what were the key requirements that were identified for the solution, looking more solution then?
Yes. So first and foremost, we needed to partner with the talent acquisition team as well as the talent management team because obviously talent management owns the data, right? So we had to make sure that there was a great partnership across all teams. We also needed to understand the requirements from both teams as well. So from a talent management standpoint, we obviously have a lot of sensitive data on the talent card. So we needed to make sure that they were aligned with what fields a hiring manager was going to receive on the employee. As I mentioned, it has work experience and other details, but it also has talent call or performance ratings on the card too. So we really had to work with both teams to ensure that they were aligned with what information was being presented to the employee. We also had to align on, the configuration of the integration. So we knew we automatically wanted to send some sort of email notification to the hiring manager and the HR business partner of that position. a notification saying these employees, the talent cards are ready for your review. But the talent acquisition team didn't want the recipients of the notification to receive multiple notifications every time a new internal candidate was moved into the statuses within iCIMS that we agreed upon. So we agreed that there would be only one notification to be sent per requisition. And at that point, all talent cards would appear what we are calling a landing page, which I think Danielle will go into a little bit more detail on that. And the landing page, even though the notification would be sent once, if more internal candidates were brought into those iCIMS recs, the talent cards will automatically feed over to that landing page. As also I mentioned, because that one notification, in the case that the notification wasn't sent, maybe there was a glitch or maybe the email got deleted accidentally, we did kind of have a backdoor entry into the landing page as well, where we added a tile card on the EC homepage, which is kind of a, like I said, a back way into the landing page. So in the case that that email notification was deleted, those talent cards could still be brought to at one point. Again, security and sensitivity around the talent card was extremely important. As currently with the existing talent card, only managers, employees, and HRBPs, as well as talent management teams that support that sector, are able to pull the talent cards. So we had to ensure that there was no other sharing of the talent card from the hiring manager and the HR business partner that was able to view these. So we did not, if their email notification with the link to the landing page was to be sent or forwarded to someone else, the person that receives that email will be able to click on the link and the landing page will appear, but they'll only be able to see talent cards for positions that they are listed as the hiring manager or HR business partner on, or they might not see any talent cards at all. And there is a message on that landing page that says you have no talent cards to view at this time. In addition, we don't allow there's no downloading option for the talent cards as well, so the cards can't be shared. And lastly, once the position has been changed in iCIMS to on hold, canceled, or closed statuses, the talent cards are automatically removed from the landing page view. So that's how we security of the talent card.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so maybe to recap in terms of different requirements, I'm hearing like integration to trigger the process, that email notification, a lot of emphasis on data security, so keeping the data in the source system, but also access control to provide only the access to the information, appropriate information that the appropriate users, navigation from SuccessFactors Employee Central to have like a backdoor entry. And then also we discussed the visual consistency with the existing talent card, including branding, etc. So I think all of these are really great examples of how SAP BTP can really support bridging the gaps and extending the processes. Now maybe turning over to you, Alison. How did this project align with your overall HR technology strategy at PepsiCo?
Yeah, so from a PepsiCo strategy perspective, we use BTP to support the HR strategy. Like Lauren mentioned, we already did have the talent card built onto the BTP environment previously, and that's been available for a few years. We also use BTP to support our integrations. So we had existing integrations with iCIMS already. So when this project came to us, we knew we already had the capability to connect with iCIMS. We knew that we had the ability to create the extension for a talent card. And now really this project was bundling those together to make a single process. And like previously mentioned, we were able to control from a security perspective all within BTP. So we could say exactly who had access to receive that talent card link, who was receiving the email notifications. And we also use a lot of our standardized approaches when building these integrations. So any reusability components are very important when we build these types of integrations so that we can continue to support it from a operations perspective.
No, thank you. I know, and I know in our discussion we discussed like that BTP was really the PepsiCo strategic platform for all HR integrations and HR extension, all because of those reasons. So that reusability of the components, it's really the one-stop shop for all HR integrations and extension. I think when we see also in our, or at least when I see in my discussion with other customers and other HRT leader. I think one additional benefit of using BTP as a strategic platform for HR is benefiting from the community of customers like you and partners who are investing and innovating on BTP specifically for HR and willing to share. So that's also why we're doing those webinars. And thanks again for sharing that today. So I think that brings us to really, we understand now the need, the context, the background, how that fits with the strategy. Now let's look at how the development approach. So Danielle, can you highlight how you approached building the solution?
Yeah, I'd love to talk you through the process, and I've seen the comments in the chat and in the Q&A asking for visuals, so I hope that this part of the presentation will satisfy you. So just to start off with, the most important part of the process actually started before we even began to build the application, before we touched a line of code or even discussed any features that the application would have. And that was the requirements gathering that Lauren outlined so succinctly earlier. But this process happened with a team of a lot of people. So Lauren was there, Stephanie was there, Allison was there, and we had lots of other people from the different PepsiCo teams present at these meetings, and we were able to gather information about the current process that the hiring managers were going through. Where is there room for improvement? What's missing from today's process? And from there, we're able to start asking some questions about improving. So what do you wish you had? What would make your life easier? And we really needed to have that understanding before we could even put together any visuals, mock-up, or a prototype or anything like that. Yeah, so through these brainstorming sessions, we were able to eventually come to an initial prototype, which you can kind of see conceptually on the screen. This step was really crucial, and it had to be early on in the process because this was where we're able to make sure that we're aligned between the two teams. So I show them something and they say, wait a second, this is actually what I meant here. Or actually, now that I see it up on a screen, can it be more like this? And this is where we were able to come up with the ideas to put the tile on the SuccessFactors home screen that Lauren talked about, to only send the one email notification at the beginning, to even have the landing page in the first place. And then, as you can see, the list of candidates, once you click on one of the candidates, it opens up the talent card in the side-by-side view. So these were all parts of those in-depth brainstorming sessions that we had that were so useful and so powerful in this process.
Thanks. And I just want to interrupt you real quick here because I mean you're talking about those brainstorming session and the feedback. So I remember, Lauren, I remember our conversation about whether or not to use a landing page with that candidate overview. Maybe can you just highlight? I know you started or you told that in the previous section, but highlight again what you saw as the main value in having that landing page.
Right. So internally, we don't know how many open positions a hiring manager or an HRBP might be tied to. And as I mentioned, we only wanted one email notification. So we thought it'd be easier to kind of have a landing page almost as a one-stop shop for all talent cards for all recs. So that if they just click that one link, they will automatically be brought to that landing page with all the talent cards for all of their requisitions and open positions. And then again, it made it a little bit easier to add that link again to the EC homepage for that backdoor entry in the case that the notification, was deleted.
No, thank you. Sorry, Daniel, I interrupted you. If you wanna...
Oh, no worries, please do. And something else that came out of those initial discussions in the first versions of the design, which by the way, we made these using Fiori elements and CAP, which allowed us to really quickly prototype and get something visual to this team quickly so that we could move forward in the process more smoothly. But in the initial prototype, we were using 100% Fiori elements with no extensions just to get something on the screen. And we learned very quickly that there were some very specific and very strict design requirements that needed to be met. And so while it's recommended to use Fiori elements whenever possible, these are predefined templates that are provided and they're maintained by SAP. And using this takes the work of maintaining the solution out of your developer's hands a bit, which is great. Who doesn't want that? But every once in a while, the Fiori elements will take you so far and then you need to extend. And so that's where we utilize the flexible programming model and even a bit of UI5 freestyle to really customize the solution to what PepsiCo's team required and what they were wanting. So to summarize what we did for the build, in the backend, we use CAP, which connects to different destinations on BTP and different services for authentication and routing. And then for the front end, we use Fiori elements for the landing page, which is the list of candidates that you see on the screen. And then for the talent card, which did have that really strict and really specific design requirement, we used a custom page that we added through the flexible programming model with some custom UI5 elements where we needed to.
Okay, well, I think that's a great example of how you start really prototyping by leveraging the standard components in that prototype, and then to quickly get feedback and identify where you need to customize more to the specific needs. So what other example do you have?
Yeah, well, I actually do have another example where we did need to extend outside of the framework, outside of kind of like the CAP standard and the Fiori element standard. And that was when loading the talent profile itself. Basically, because as you can see, we had to load data from multiple sources. So on one hand, we have a few fields that are coming from iCIMS. And then on the other hand, we have some information that's coming from different SuccessFactors sources. The standard way of loading things, which normally works right out of the box, and there are no need to extend past this. In our case, we did because we wanted to get the talent cards into the hiring manager's hands as soon as possible. We don't want them to sit waiting for the page to load. So we did build a custom solution for caching in the front end and preloading some of the data so that the hiring managers wouldn't have to wait.
Okay. No, thank you. And so, I mean, I get the value of prototyping before productizing. What makes it efficient in terms of development effort? Like, don't you have to rebuild a lot once your prototype is ready?
You would think that, but SAP and like UI5, CAP, the documentation for these frameworks provide really clear best practices, and as long as you adhere to those, it's very simple to extend and modify and update whenever you need to. So we followed best practices like separating the front end from the back end, making things very modular, having everything in a logical place. And yeah, when we did extend, we did so incrementally and slowly, and we're really methodical with how we did it. So again, going back to the requirements gathering and the feedback loop that we had with PepsiCo's team, every time we made a change, we would kind of like go over it together and say, is this really what we want? And that's what I would recommend to anyone who's trying to build a solution like this.
Right. And then I think that brings us to the next part, which is more like handing over the solution to the PepsiCo team.
Yes. So even when we were doing custom development, we were doing so with sustainability and long-term maintenance in mind. So while we were applying those best practices throughout the application, we were also thinking at some point we need to hand this over to Allison's team at PepsiCo so that they can fully own and maintain the solution. And so we were really being careful with how we designed and developed this application to make sure that we would be able to perform that handoff successfully. And then at the end of that, we conducted some knowledge transfer sessions and provided some documentation to make sure that, again, that handover would be really smooth and successful.
Thank you. And maybe in a nutshell, what would you say made this process really successful and a really good example to share on how to approach custom HR application development with BTP?
I can think of two things. With regards to the project, first of all, thanks so much to PepsiCo's team because you were so eager and so involved in every step, and that collaboration was really refreshing and really smooth. We agreed on the requirements early on, but we were flexible and we made changes where we needed to. Communication was really open and often, and yeah, really, really efficient. So again, thanks. It was so great to work on this project, one of the coolest things I've ever worked on. And the second thing I would mention is with regards to development, BTP made this process so much easier because, again, like I mentioned, the application was built on CAP Fiori elements. These are very smoothly integrated with BTP. All of the different services that allow you to implement things like authentication and routing with very minimal configuration on the developer's side, and all of the services that you need are seamlessly connected. So I think that also helped to make the process successful.
Thank you. And I think that highlights again that it's not all about technology, but also about delivering value to the business. Now, Frank, can you guide us quickly through what the key architectural decisions were and how BTP is supporting the requirements?
No, absolutely. I think it's important. I'm also looking at the questions that come in, so I try to cover some of those already with the architecture. But when we look at the architecture, the main thing is that we apply like three main design criteria, which is simple, reusable, and sustainable. With simple, really breaking things down and really having a dedicated purpose for each of the components. Then we look at reusability, and it's really reusing what we already have, and that's where BTP actually comes in, where we can reuse a lot of these quality components so that we don't have to worry about what we call boilerplate coding or concepts that we have to implement, but we can reuse these components and focus on the customer specific things. And then the sustainability side is really once we have developed it and this application is live and now needs to be supported, that it actually can be supported by multiple people and that these concepts that we apply throughout can be easily supported so that regardless who's supporting it, that everyone can easily identify how it will be supported. So the components that you see that we used is obviously the front end. We said, okay, well, everything that supports the front end needs to be encapsulated, and we used UI5. Danielle mentioned Fiori elements, a flexibility framework, etc. And the focus of the UI can be on branding, the user experience, etc. And we clearly separated that from the back end. And the backend's purpose here, really, we build it on CAP, which uses Node.js for coding purposes, but other customers have used, for instance, Wrap in that instance. But that's kind of the backend application supports a simple API, which means that the front end can easily access the data and doesn't have to worry about stitching things together, etc. That's all the purpose of the backend, which will stitch together the information from SuccessFactors and iCIMS in this case. And then the additional component was around the security. I think we talked about that before. In this, let's say, setup, it's very important that there is a temporary nature to the authorization because the typical users who have the roles in the system can see their own people's talent card. But in this case, there's a temporary relationship between the candidate who applies to the job and the authorization of who can see it. So in this case, it's the hiring manager and the HR manager of the application. So there's a temporary nature here. So we implemented that security on top of the existing security to provide for that temporary nature. So once the candidate has moved on, people will no longer have access to that data. Then we use some other components of BTP, like destinations is a good example. So we can make that distinction. Destinations are easily reusable and then configurable as these move through, let's say, dev, QA, and production, and that we have a secure connection with the backend systems. And all of that is also provided by BTP. The fourth component that we have here is identity, which is really important, like the single sign-on experience. So when people click on that link, if they're already authenticated against the corporate identity provider, the SAP identity service will make that transparent and provide the right role. So there was very little work that we had to do. We just, because this environment was linked to what is also called IAS in this case. And then the fifth component that we leveraged is for notifications. We use the integration suite, mainly also because Allison's team was familiar with this, and that's a simple component to actually pull from iCIMS and send out notifications with a link to the actual application. And all of that makes that, with leveraging these components, nicely splitting them out, that we really could build a enterprise-grade application, reusing these BTP components to reduce the build effort, to also have a quicker time to market. Like Danielle indicated, we could prototype and then build as we go, so we could focus on that custom content and ultimately have a solution that can be easily maintained because all of the components have a dedicated function.
No, thank you for sharing that, Frank. I think that helps for the more technical people as well to understand the architecture and how BTP components were leveraged here. So maybe now that we've seen the background, the need, the implementation approach, the architecture, Marissa, can you share maybe from your perspective, what impact does the solution have?
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for all your comments. So I think, what you've heard through the different presenters today is this was really a success on many different fronts, right? I mean, the requirement came in, they wanted something automated, they wanted to be able to deliver content to their hiring managers quickly, remove the need to have to go ask somebody, just, give them the data that they need so that they can do their job and do the hiring, on the side. So, this brought all of that together. And, internally, it was amazing partnership. I mean, we had our tech stack leads on the recruiting side, along with our core HR talent management side, come together and really, put together a plan to implement something that was really going to bring quicker results to our hiring manager, quicker content, all of the things that they need to be able to hire internally. And then I think Lauren had mentioned this, it also brings to our employees the importance of keeping your data up to date, because now they're seeing, okay, this data is actually being used. If I'm interested in a role, they're going to be looking at, the content that I'm putting on my profile. So it really just brings a lot of things together in a nice way, in an easy to use manner. Danielle touched upon a couple of things too. Yes, we always try to collect requirements, but things change, right? When you start to demo something to the team, they do want to tweak something, and the ability to meet those requirements quickly and be agile and be able to change. I mean, that was also a huge success. We were able to get this up and running very, very quickly. And lastly, it was low cost for us. I mean, having these tools available to us, having the great partnership with the Coleman Tech team, I mean, it really just brought a awesome solution together, low cost, and we were able to deliver it on time. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the results. I mean, we just launched it probably 2 weeks ago now. So, it'll be interesting to see, now that the hiring managers have this data at their fingertips, are we actually hiring more people internally versus having to go externally? So, it'll be interesting to see what type of results this is going to bring to the business. And, now that we have projects like this that we can call successful, I'm sure that, we'll start to leverage this in other areas. I mean, we actually just had a request the other day on another way to basically pull data easily for somebody to view it and make it available. So I'm sure, there'll be more conversations, and just being able to see how quickly we're able to build this and pull this together was pretty awesome to see. So really great job. And Danielle, you mentioned that. I mean, the partnership was awesome. I mean, you guys were getting on calls and looking at everything and tweaking it. And I think even after the go live, there were a couple of changes that needed to be made, and it just all went very successful. So I know the team is really happy with it.
Thank you. Thank you. And like you said, I think sharing those examples of how successful a project it looks like and what the end result looks like, that's how it brings ideas to other customers or even internally on what other things can we do within HR technology.
Yeah, and the comment that Frank made, the making it simple, reusable, sustainable. I mean, those are the principles that Pepsi tries to follow with all of our projects. I mean, we have hundreds of requests that come in and projects that we're solutioning for. So we need to make sure that we're building something that's simple and can be used by other teams. I mean, we're 320,000 employees. There's a lot of requests that come in. So we need to make sure that we can reuse, and of course, the sustainability. I mean, once this goes live, who's supporting it? If there is an issue, how quickly is that going to be resolved? So that's all part of the initial thought that went into designing this. And I think we're going to be seeing the benefits of that.
Maybe to round up, we can do like a round table with like maybe one key point to highlight, or what is the key takeaway for you? Maybe starting with Stephanie.
I think for me, the biggest takeaway is that we were able to deliver something that appears seamless to the hiring manager and the HR business partner. And that's what I love. They don't realize that it's 2 or 3 different systems. It's just seamless.
No, absolutely.
One click and they're there.
No, thank you. Alison?
Basically just that the business is able to come to us with these needs and these requirements, and we're able to build a solution that fits onto our existing platform.
Yeah, which is fun too. Lauren?
Just repurposing and reusing something we already had, right? So we already have a talent card. It was used with other processes internally. So the hiring manager definitely knows knowledge of the talent card because they've probably seen their own or others on their other employees. So just repurposing something that we already had internally for a different functionality.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also important in reusability. Danielle?
Well, if you're watching this, I hope that this is a good example of how successful and smooth a collaboration like this can be. And if you're thinking of custom development, don't be afraid. You can have the features that you want and the customization and the uniqueness that you need out of your application. You just need the right approach.
Thank you. And Frank, if you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think just what I can potentially add, I think as far as like from an architecture perspective as well, having something that allows us to build as we go and that we get the progressive insight, but the prototyping early, I think it's key by leveraging that BTP framework. Build that quickly and build and change as we go, and that these changes can be done incrementally throughout because it's nicely let's say dedicated components throughout. So that's what.
And maybe real quick, because I see we had a lot of content to share, so I don't know if there's one or two questions that we want to address and highlight now.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the questions that came in was also like, well, yeah, why BTP versus by building it somewhere else? That we see that frequently with customers looking at, okay, we moved, for instance, from on-premise to the cloud. Now we're going to build like custom solutions, what platform and why do we need to consider BTP? And that's really where we hopefully illustrated as well, like BTP gives you those components that are purpose built and avoid having to do a fully custom solution. But it's not only that, it's also the documentation around it is very aligned with how to do things and how to put things in place. Plus you have the whole community as well that is surrounding that. So there's a lot of resources as well as partners who can help build that. So you can focus on the custom, let's say the custom logic that you need, like you indicated in the introduction as well. Like let's say SuccessFactors covers 95% or more of what you need in the in your system. And then there are these gaps where you say, well, we want to make this process our own. How do we do this? Well, BTP allows you to converge on that and also streamline the skill sets. With regards to skill set, we also have a question on like how difficult it is to onboard ABAP backend developers to develop for SuccessFactors. I think we see that as well with customers that have adopted or came from on-prem, went to the cloud and say we have ABAP skill sets, and to that end, where we show the backend logic, we in this case we use CAP, but there's also opportunity to use RAP, which is the ABAP component.
Yeah, and on that maybe, so in one of our next webinars, we also plan to address that question as well. So with customers that had experience in SAP HCM on-prem and thus had resources with ABAP, for example, and address that concept of, okay, how do you repurpose the skills when you migrate to the cloud? So that's also a topic we'll follow up on.
Yeah, there was a question as well, how much involvement afterwards from the consulting team is required. And I think Danielle, you indicated like, yeah, the whole purpose is that the PepsiCo team owns the solution after go live, and that's what we throughout the process.
Exactly. Yeah, we're currently in our hypercare period, but once that is over, they own it and they have the skills that they need and the tools that they need to maintain it on their own.
Yeah, and it's also because of that strategy. Allison indicated the strategy of adopting BTP. Now the skill set in the team is there. So these components like the integration, the security piece, the development piece, the front end piece, and all those pieces are already there. So now with each request that comes in, that same skill set is already there. And so now you can start focusing on filling in, listen to requirements, what is the best way to make that happen, and have an efficient framework to actually do that.
I see that we're at the end of the time that we're allocated, so we'll also follow up on additional questions individually, and the recording of this webinar will be made to all participants. So with that, I want to thank again the whole team here, so the PepsiCo team, Mick from SAP, Danielle, Frank, for sharing all that knowledge today, and thanks everyone, to all participants who show interest in BTP for HR. We're excited to continue our series of webinars. So the next webinar will be somewhere in June, so we'll confirm the content very soon. So stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.